Especially outdoor play, is so important. We know that there's so many health benefits to spending time outside, and we know there's so many health benefits to play. And so I find that, combining the two creates this magic concoction of regulated, joyful communities and families that are connected to each other and also to nature, which I think is really powerful. Um, I also experience awe and wonder in a very big way. And I find that this helps other people feel comfortable doing the same. Something
So, have you ever wondered what happens when you're outside? Is it play? Is it learning? Is it both? Today, we have a guest who is going to help us shine a light on all of that. She's somebody I met at the Play Conference this past spring, and I absolutely adore her. She is so full of energy and she's got so much insight to share with us. Please welcome Jo Joly, who is the program manager at Families in Nature, to the Adventures in Learning podcast. Jo, welcome to the show.
Hi, Diane. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so glad you're here. One of the things that I was really drawn to about you when I met you was your sense of play and your ability to connect nature and play. To me, they go hand in hand, but I know we don't always think about them as two things that go together. So I kind of wanted to start with asking you to describe your own adventures in learning and how you got to be somebody who gets to combine play and nature.
Great. Well, to start off, as a child, some of my favorite play always took place outdoors, alongside nature, from building small habitats for the critters in my yard to racing snails. And I was constantly curious about all the things around me, particularly those micro pieces of nature, the ants, the seeds, the elements. And so I always knew when I grew up that I was destined to work alongside nature. But as a high schooler, the only options that were presented to me were veterinarian, zookeeper, maybe a park ranger. But I just knew that there were more opportunities out there. I just kind of had to figure out where and how. And so I got into a small program at Canisius College in Buffalo called the ABEC program, which is a comprehensive Bachelor of Science in Animal Behavior, Ecology, and Conservation. And so these studies really opened my eyes to the diversity of opportunities available to work with animals and nature and be connected outside. And so since then, I've developed 4-H programs for Title I schools. I've trained dogs at local shelters. I've traveled around the state delivering educational performances with exotic animals. And through that, I learned that my innate closeness to nature and talent for teaching people, children in particular, was going to be what was going to be my driving force and part of my purpose. And this led me to pursue my master's in anthrozoology, which is the study of the relationship between humans and animals. And I
Cool.
really focused on that time on the child-animal connection and conservation behavior. How do we create these opportunities that also translate into taking care of our earth? And so then I started interning with families in nature during my master's program. And I've been there for 6 years later now. So I'm the program manager now. And what I do at Finn is I create equitable access to nature and these connection experiences for everyone, regardless of age.
I love that. And what a great way for anybody who's considering, I want to do something that's STEM related, but I don't know what it is, to realize that it can be really broad and that there are so many different ways to access the field. I love the way you found a way to combine your passions. So, why is play important?
I believe one of the reasons I'm so good at my job is because I love play so much. Play, especially outdoor play, is so important. We know that there's so many health benefits to spending time outside, and we know there's so many health benefits to play. And so I find that, combining the two creates this magic concoction of regulated, joyful communities and families that are connected to each other and also to nature, which I think is really powerful. Um, I also experience awe and wonder in a very big way. And I find that this helps other people feel comfortable doing the same. Something that suddenly would, have gotten looked over so easily by someone, like a bee pollinating a flower, often becomes a moment to share and to learn and creates a memory, and then also sparks a series of questions and inquiry that all ages get to participate in and then share and remember forever, which I really love. I have this specific example. I was at a nature-based leadership workshop in Vermont, and being from Texas, I was mesmerized by the carpet of moss beneath my feet. And while we were sitting during a lecture, I slowly took my shoes off and just started sinking my toes into the moss. And slowly I noticed one by one, the rest of my cohort started doing the same. And one woman came up to me afterwards and just thanked me for giving her that permission to let go and be free and dig her toes in the earth and to be playful. And I think it's really powerful what can happen when you operate from a lens of play, because it's our true state. It's what we're meant to be doing.
And it's something that doesn't just apply to children. I mean, we know the science backs up that this is such a powerful way for young kids to learn, but it doesn't end with early childhood. It shouldn't end with early childhood. As grown-ups, I think that we're also hardwired to learn through play. I know that for me, that's a huge part of it. And the learning through nature lens is huge as well. I recently was talking to a scientist who's obsessed with lichen, and I cannot unsee lichen after that. And so
Yeah.
I find that as I'm going on my walks in the woods, as I'm walking in urban settings, I'm looking for lichen and I'm going, ooh, that. And then I'm like playing with it. And I'm like, that's the kind that's crusty, or that one is like the foliage. And it's just so much fun. And I think that if we give ourselves permission to play, there's so much more wonder in what we do.
I'm
So
loving this revolution of adult play, right? We're
yes.
seeing that a lot right now, which I think is so important because everybody is overworked and stressed, and what we need to do is play.
And I think that door was opened for us during the pandemic when we had to slow down
Yeah.
and we had to be outside, and the door cracked. And I think it's now up to organizations like Families in Nature, up to those of us who are doing informal education to sort of push that door wider for everybody. So tell us about Families in Nature and the kind of work that you do there. What does a day in your life look like?
So the mission of FIN, or Families in Nature, is to connect children and their families to nature and to each other through time spent learning, playing, and volunteering outdoors. And ultimately, it's our vision to inspire all people to fall in love with nature, regardless of age, and foster the next generation of conservationists. And so what that looks like for me is play-based nature connection opportunities. So we have the basis for our entire program is called the Ecologist School, and it has over 1,000 activities across 16 different branches of science, all related to ecology. So you've got ornithology, and you've got ichthyology, the study of fish, and how can we activate that topic through the lens of play and being outside. And each of these branches of science has activities across learning disciplines of STEAM, and then as well as volunteerism, outdoor skills, and leadership skills.
Ooh.
So it's really covers quite a breadth of learning opportunity. And then each branch of science comes with a accompanying badge. So if you complete 4 activities in each science slice, you can earn your badge. And then you get this opportunity to collect all 16 badges. It's like an ageless science scout opportunity, especially for those people, I was going to say kids, but really adults love it as well, who are more inclined to have that incentive piece of this beautiful
Right.
embroidered badge. But our programs can be done by anyone, anywhere, but we also highlight the activities that we've created through our in-person programming. And what that looks like for me is I lead camping trips throughout Central Texas, and a lot of the times it's bridging first-time campers, taking them outside and helping them feel comfortable. We have a whole gear library full of outdoor gear, so you don't need any of your own expensive camping gear to come try it out with us. And then we focus on the whole weekend again, is child-led, it is play-based, it is hands-on exploration. So we do anywhere from, a week-long trip to Costa Rica to really get an immersive nature connection experience, all the way to a 2-hour fishing event at a local park, where kids can really kind of hone in on one specific science slice or learning discipline.
And who can come and do these things with you? Because I'm like, Costa Rica, can I join you?
Yes, exactly. Anyone can join. So, typically a Central Texas campout is going to be a bit restrictive for someone in New York, but we have travel opportunities usually every year. We've got our Hope Nature Travel program, which, like I mentioned, is more of that immersive off-grid typically experience. I got to take some folks to Baja, California a few years ago and see baby gray whales in the wild. And let me just tell
Wow.
you, that's a
That had to have
life-changing
been amazing.
experience. Yeah, and then all of our lessons and our resources are available to anybody online. And so, if you're just wanting to supplement your education, your kids' education at home, or need some after-school activities, or you want to boost your in-school time if you're a teacher, we have tons of free resources for anyone.
And I will make sure to drop a link to those in the show notes, because I've got to tell you, I looked at the lessons and they're incredible. And
Thank you.
if you're looking to add that ecology or that nature component to what you're doing, this is a fabulous opportunity. And it's really kind of fin to make this available.
Thanks. Access is everything, right?
Oh, absolutely. So, what are some of your favorite lessons that you've developed?
Oh, we love, I'm a bird fan. I'm a bird nerd and a bug nerd. And so I really love the hands-on, um, creation of a bird nest inspired by a specific local species, or an exploration of the different adaptations of bird beaks, and creating your own type of bird beak based off of a species that you saw in a field guide, and then going out and collecting the supplies that you need to be able to make that beak, and then try to actually go around and pick up seeds, or try to pick up worms, and seeing how that can actually translate and create a fun experience that's also based in learning. I also really love I'm very artsy, so I love any of our activities that incorporate an art element or an outdoor skills element, encouraging kids to learn how to use a compass, some of those tools that are often getting lost, I think. And so bringing a way to allow kids to have their own autonomy over their experiences outside.
That sounds amazing. You were talking about the bird beaks, and I remember when I was working at a children's museum, we would do an animal adaptations program where we did something like that, and we had different tools that the kids would use. So there were chopsticks, and there were
Yeah.
like the big slotted spoons for the spoon bills, and there were pliers and different kinds of tools for them to experiment with, trying to match what beak was like what bird, and how would you use that tool appropriately, which was always a lot of fun. And then I was thinking about the art section of it. One of the things I used to love to do is to have kids research and learn about the birds and then create their own. Like,
Yeah.
you want a bird who will survive in the wilds where the temperature is super cold. What does that bird need? How are you going to create a bird that will survive? So I love that you guys have those kinds of things. Do you also link literacy to the lessons? Do you connect picture books to what you all do?
So typically, we haven't done too much of linking specific books. When we work with teachers, we certainly help give with recommendations of ways to tie in, they're often the ones that come to us. We're like, oh, we read a book about a snake this week. How can we take that inspiration and use that as our learning subject for the day, instead of, oh, I have, this XYZ I've got to get done. Everybody finds it much more effective when you really go with the flow of interest, right? When you're really following that child-led model. And so kind of helping folks pick out books here and there. But I'm a huge Bird Baylor fan. And so I always like to share her books with our guides, especially. I'm a forest therapy guide as well. And so Bird Baylor's work about nature connection and really being anchored in the land. And, there's Everybody Needs a Rock. And I think the other one is A New Way to Listen. And so the other way to listen. And so those are some of my personal favorites.
I love it. And I know I like books like What's in Your Pocket, which is kids going out and collecting, but then you're seeing stories of scientists and how they got started as kids,
Oh,
which
I
is
love
a
that.
beautiful one. I love the Over and Under series where you're in different ecosystems, and it's over and under the watershed, over and under the pond, over and under the canyon. Each one sort of gives you sort of that macro and that micro look. Jason Chin has also done a really nice job in terms of sort of doing a dive into different ecologies and being able to see the world both from a macro point of view and a micro point of view. So it's always fun for me to sort of go, okay, how can we connect the books to allow a teacher to go even deeper with what they're doing?
Oh, I love that. You're gonna have to send me those.
I will gladly send those with you. Um, So, are there examples you can give us about different types of play and how we can connect play seamlessly, like with preschool, early childhood, elementary learning? I know we've been talking some about adults, but how do we zero in on the younger kids in terms of connecting that natural tendency to play to the learning that I know that teachers feel they're held more and more accountable for?
Yeah, I think, I had mentioned before, my favorite type of learning, and I think the most impactful type of learning is child-led, and because it's inherently rooted in play. Exploring your surroundings, observing nature, activating the senses, that's a huge piece of the programming we do because it's got the mental health benefits directly tied into that as well. And then that's scalable. So starting at a very young age, teaching a child how to parse out each different sense and connect to nature in that way, and then also regulate while doing so, I think is like a great way to begin. We also, we encourage a lot of social emotional learning, a lot of peer by peer learning, because our programs are also all ages all together. This leads to really valuable learning experiences where you've got a 13-year-old that's leading a group of 6-year-olds, and then you've got, a toddler hanging around as well. And the different levels of absorption from a lesson can be so vast, but also be so relevant to all age levels. But I think playing outside in particular supports my favorite type of play, which is parallel play. That is one of my, still as an adult, one of my favorite ways to play is to do my own thing in silence next to somebody else who's doing their own passionate thing in silence. But then it also leaves so much room for that physical and constructive play, being able to really dig in the dirt and the elements, using your creativity to then creatively storytell and then develop social dynamics. That is one of my favorite things that I get to witness, is kids just learning that social emotional piece through the parents just taking a step back. We all just sit and watch, right? Most of what my programming is just making sure that everybody stays safe, nobody's on fire. And the parents and I get to spend a lot of time just, networking and chatting. And the kids often take care of themselves when you give them the chance to kind of, create their own village, because they do.
Oh, that's wonderful. And if I were a parent or a caregiver who sort of wanted to bring a little more play-based nature play into my child's life, how would you tell me to sort of get going on that?
So one of the biggest things is the science right now points to 2 hours a week is all of the time that you need to spend out in nature to really start getting the benefits, both the mental and the physical benefits. At a minimum of 20 minutes per exposure outside. 20 minutes is nothing. By the time we think about 20 minutes, it's over with. So that's what I would start with there, is just aim to spend a little bit more time intentionally as a family, if you can, together outside for 20 minutes. If you can do 5 days a week, 20 minutes outside, a walk down your road and back, a quick color exploration. My favorite things are a walking scavenger hunt. Some colors. Let's go see what we can match while we're just walking down the street. Or for the older kids, bringing in those science concepts. What is symmetry? Okay, now how can I go explore that around me? What is a habitat? Well, let's go look. What are tracks and signs? We can just walk for 10 minutes, and and just being able to, boost that observational skill the kids are going to be able to absorb so much. And then the next time they go out, they're going to, oh, I want to go see that nest in that tree. Oh, it's not there anymore. I wonder what happened. And so I think just starting with the smallest amount of intentional time spent together outside. And then if you want to incorporate, some more specific learning elements, then go on our website and get some of our free activity ideas. But really, it's mostly about the time spent. All time spent in nature is equal time spent in nature. So you can just be laying on a blanket under the sun, looking at some grass, and that is just as valuable as if you are hiking up the top of a mountain. And so I think people forget that. And so nearby nature is so powerful in that way.
Oh, and I like that concept of nearby nature and also of consistency, because when you do something over and over, even if it's like that 10 minutes, you start to notice things. And so you're sort of building on layer of observation skills as well. And then that sparks creativity because you start asking those, I wonder questions. That's been happening to me right where I live. I'm in the suburbs of a small town, and we have a white Chinese goose, which is evidently the domesticated version of a snow goose. I have gone down a rabbit hole on this recently, who has joined a flock of Canada geese. And I have been watching this goose the entire season and now feel like I'm a little bit of anthropomorphizing because I'm starting to try to get in her brain and go, okay, what's going on? Because the other night she was sad and she was honking, or at least it sounded that way, like it was a different honk than it had been. There were more geese, and it was sort of like, is everybody playing nice in the sandbox? But then everything was back to normal. And I was like, I've created this whole saga in my head about the geese. But it's the same kind of stuff that you can do wherever you are. It might be a saga about the little bird's nest that the robins have made, or it could be just watching the tree and watching the lichen that we talked about.
Well, and that creates connection to place too, right? Which is so important because, on a bigger scale, how can we conserve anything that we don't even know about? We can't conserve what we don't love and what we don't understand. And so I think for early childhood, it's just exposure. I have a 2.5-year-old niece, and I was I was there the other day. She goes, Auntie Joe, show me Cada. And I was like, what is she saying? Oh, cicada? And she was
Oh,
like,
that
yeah,
makes me happy.
show me Cada. And I was like, all right, I actually know for a fact that there's a dead cicada out in the front yard. Let's go look at it. And this 2.5-year-old who's got a mother who's actually petrified of butterflies, and I am the anti-bug, I am nature ant.
I
So
love
that's
it.
my job. But she's already, really curious about, okay, this is a caterpillar, but why does it look like a worm? And I'm like, you're 2.5. And so these conversations, this inquiry can get started so early. And I think that's really important.
And we don't have to have the answers. That's the other thing I would
Exactly.
throw out for any adults who are listening is you don't have to know. The best answer you can say is, let's find out together.
I totally agree. I use that one a lot. People, I'm a Texas master naturalist. I've got a lot of roots in, science and ecology, and I do know quite a bit about our local ecosystems, but there's a lot I don't know. And so people just assume that I would know things. And when I tell them I don't even know, it also allows them to create more space and more humility to realize it's okay to not know. If this lady who actually spends her free time learning about nature doesn't even know, then that's okay. And one of my favorite bridges, I think, to help with that, people are all the time like, how did you know what that butterfly was? I'm like, I use this fancy app, this free app called Seek,
I love
S-E-E-K.
Seek. Seek and Merlin are two of my
Yes.
favorite apps.
I think there's such a great bridge for people who want to learn a little bit more, and they are so low stakes, they are low commitment. You take a picture and it tells you exactly what that butterfly is. And now next time when someone's like, what's that butterfly? You're like, oh, that's a Gulf fritillary. And then people are like, how did you know? Oh, my fancy app told me. But then you start to remember it on your own, and then you develop this huge knowledge of the world around you and helps you really, really connect.
I think that's awesome. So you said something that intrigued me. Forest therapy. Tell
Mhm.
me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I'm a forest and nature therapy guide through the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. And what that means, well, what forest bathing is in general, been a big buzzword the last few years. Um, people get confused because I get emails like, do I wear a bathing suit? And what, is there water? I didn't even know there was water at this park. I'm like, okay. So breaking it down, Shinrin-yoku is a Japanese term that directly translates to bathing in the chemicals of the forest. So it's adjacent to a sun bath or a sound bath, right? That version of bathing versus hopping in a tub. And so what we do is I go through a series of invitations that help people tap into their bodies, calm their nervous systems, and activate their senses. So back to that sensory exploration. We're really slowing down. We are spending a minute just listening. What can we hear? What is the farthest thing we can hear? What is the closest thing we can hear? We are observing what's in motion, getting fixated on a tiny insect, following their journey for 10 minutes, or standing and observing, the micro movements or the macro movements in nature. And just really honestly, it just gets us out of our head. We are so focused on going from A to B. And this is just an excuse for you to put your phone away and really just observe what's going on around you. And the amount of people who come through our forest bathing and, have reports afterwards of, I'd never even seen something like that before. And I've lived here my whole life. I've never even noticed that before. I feel so relaxed. And so I lead sessions like that for adults only, families, kids, and anybody else who's, interested and really just helping relieve the stressors of what it is to live right now.
I love that. Jo, it has been so much fun talking to you today. Before we close, I'm going to ask you the question I always love to leave people with. What currently brings you joy?
Oh, that is something we talk about a lot in my work. Currently, what brings me the most joy is just seeing the growth that among the people that I take outside. I experience a lot of joy myself, and it can be easy to be bogged down when everywhere else around you is not experiencing, a similar joy. And so just spending time outside with children, um, is one of my biggest joys. I also often get to watch people go from being uncomfortable outside, often afraid of insects, of the elements, to thriving and comfortable and eager to learn and spend more time outside with their families, or kids who are neurodivergent that really struggle in a traditional classroom setting. They thrive in nature. They
Yes.
are leaders. They are your fire tenders. And so just getting to watch that development, because we are so estranged from nature. And it brings me so much joy to see people recognize that their place is in nature, and they're allowed to, at whatever age, rekindle that curiosity and comfort of in that relationship with the natural world. We say at Families in Nature, a love of nature is the foundation of all conservation. And I feel really lucky to be a part of fostering that love for a lot of people. So that definitely brings me joy.
That brings me joy too. And I will make sure that we include all of the links to Families in Nature in our show notes, because I want people to check out the amazing lessons and the amazing work that you all are doing. Thank you so much for sharing your joy and your passion with us today. It's
Thank
been
you so
such a
much.
joy for me to get to talk to you again.
I know, likewise. Thank you. It's been lovely. I always love to get a chance to, share about what we're doing and what I'm passionate about. So I really appreciate the invitation.